My dear ladies and gentlemen, do you want to learn about spirituality and mysticism? Do you want to find out how you can become more enlightened, more confident in your decisions, and more in tune with reality, all the while being less distracted by nonsense? If so, then you have come to a right place. My name is Layla Oresme, and I am here to guide you. Today's topic is the body-mind feelings. An ancient Stoic saying, "Know thyself," is considered to be the core principle for those who wish to attain wisdom. In my opinion, the best way to start the journey of self-discovery is to actually find out who we are not. This is where the body-mind feelings come into play, because we are not the body-mind feelings. So what is the body-mind feelings? The body-mind feelings consist of the body, the mind, and the feelings. The body, in this sense, is of course our physical body. It is our looks, our height, the hair color, the eye color, the skin color, our race, etc., etc. Our mind is our thoughts, is the things we think, whether it's about the world or ourselves. It's things we can conceptualize. It's basically our thoughts and ideas. The feelings are obviously our feelings, is the way we feel about the world and about people. It is also our emotions. It is our feelings of love and hate and everything in between. The body-mind feelings is a machine that we inhabit during our incarnation on Earth. It is really important to understand that it is not who we really are. What we are at the very core is our souls, but more on that later. The body-mind feelings has evolved over millions of years, and it is actually the source of all of our survival instincts. These survival instincts have been designed to protect us during our primitive days. For example, when we had to hunt for animals and actually run away from bears or lions, etc. For this reason, they have been key for our evolution, because without them, we wouldn't be able to function in the world. The way I like to see the body-mind feelings is that it is the animal side of being a human. The more human side is our soul, it is our spiritual side. So there was a time where humans were just mere animals, and we didn't have our connection to God and spirit in order to evolve past that animal state. So back in the day, we were much more governed by all of these instincts that were literally just driving us towards survival. They were telling us when we are hungry, where we need to mate, where we need to drink, where we need to move to another area and run away from potential predators. But right now, of course, the world we live in is completely different. It is actually the most safe it has ever been before. So a lot of these animal instincts are not much needed. Also because we are humans that have conscience, and we can actually be so much more connected to our souls. And I think this is what puts us apart from animals, because we are, as far as I am concerned, the only creatures on earth who have a spiritual life, who have a spiritual connection, and that can actually, in a way, know God. And the way it happens is through our souls. It is not through the body-mind feelings. So in the world we live today, even though it is so much safer, we still experience so much anxiety, so much depression, so much confusion, so much addiction. And that is a sign that the body-mind feelings has taken over. When we allow the body-mind feelings to take control, it wreaks havoc in our lives, because it disconnects us from who we really are. It therefore disconnects us from our path, from our mission, from what we are really here to do on this earth. This can cause much sorrow, misery, and disappointment. when this happens, we end up reacting on our fears and urges and primitive desires. We make bad choices because they are based on fear, not our real calling. And of course, this doesn't take us to a good place. It takes us away from our soul and away from God, and takes us into this really dark reality that we create for ourselves. So the key, of course, is to control the body mind feelings, because if we allow something to take control over us, we are powerless. We become slaves to all of these instincts that are not serving us anymore. So we have to get really strong within ourselves and actually learn about the body mind feelings, so we can see in our life where it's starting to control us, so that we can take that control back and actually use the body mind feelings productively and constructively, because we can, and it is actually what we are supposed to do. So in order to control this, we have to know about it. We have to understand how it really works. When it comes to the body is really important, because it is sort of the structure of the body mind feelings. Everything that we put into our body, everything we consume, whether it's through food, drink, news, media, etc., has an effect on our body. Our body produces hormones that, as a result, control the way we think and feel. So this whole body-mind feelings is actually deeply interconnected. It is very complex, which is why a lot of the medicine does not work, because it doesn't actually address the issues holistically. So we have to start from feeding our body healthy foods. We have to start working out and making sure that our physical health is at its optimal. This means that we have to have self-discipline. It also means that we have to control our urges and our appetites, whether it's for food or sex or having fun and just, being all over the place. This will actually create a good foundation for controlling our mind, because when we feel healthy, when we have loads of energy and we get a good night's sleep, we feel rested and we feel this vitality flowing through us, it is going to be much easier to control our thoughts. Because as I said before, a lot of our negative thoughts is actually caused by unhealthy habits that we do on a day-to-day basis. When we start to get control over our thoughts, it becomes easier to choose which thoughts we prefer to think. Of course, when we struggle with anxiety, it is not easy at first. But another thing to realize is that actually, instead of forcing yourself to think positive thoughts, try with not thinking at all. I think it's very important to not waste energy, because we need to use up energy in order to think. This is why when, we have days when we study a lot, we get really hungry, is because we use that energy. So when we are constantly going through our day-to-day in this kind of mindless chatter, looping around in our heads, we waste a lot of energy. So if we can't necessarily stop the negative thoughts and exchange them for example, more positive thoughts, it is actually better to try and stop thinking at all. Things like meditation are very good, and just practicing concentration and not thinking about anything at all, even if it's just for a few minutes. Sometimes we can be sitting on the tube or a train, or just sitting in a park, and instead of constantly being on our phones, we can actually practice not thinking. We can just pause and pay attention to our breath. We have so many moments where we can do that. For example, waiting in a line in a store. There is literally countless of moments when we can practice not thinking. When we do that, we will have much more energy to think when it is important to think. For example, when we study or we need to solve a problem, etc. Once we have mastered this, we will be able to take control of our thoughts even further and actually create thoughts that, as a result, will make us feel a certain way. This will go into the topic of feelings. A lot of people are very emotional. They react with their feelings all of the time. And the thing with feelings is that they can be very misleading because they can really paint our world in this really vibrant color, and they can be very delusional. For example, we can be in love with someone who's actually not treating us very well, and we just cannot see the thing for a reality. So we end up making excuses, and later down the line, when, for example, we have left that person, we think back and, we actually ask, like, what were we thinking? And this is because we weren't thinking, we were feeling. So there's a difference. Maybe if we thought a bit more, if we calmed the emotions and became more rational, maybe we would have made better choices. The feelings can be very overwhelming. They can actually make us react to a certain event in a really overreactive way. And this can cause a lot of problems. It can ruin our reputation because, suddenly we just blow up. We start crying for no reason. And the reason for this is because a lot of our emotions are actually a result of something that happened in the past, even way back when we were children. For example, imagine that you have a bruise because someone has punched you in your arm, and then you see a friend and they nudge you just for fun, and then you're going to be in so much pain because that person had no idea you had a bruise there. So you react in this, crazy way because you're in pain. And, this person might look at you like, what's wrong? So it is the same thing with feelings. Things that happen to us as children can really affect our life right now, which is why it's really important to control our emotions, because otherwise we're just going to be on this really crazy roller coaster. We're going to be going up and down, and it's just, our life is going to become really hard to manage. And in order to see reality for what it is, we have to be able to step out of our emotions and not always do what feels good, but what is actually rational. So we have to be able to add some mind into the feelings and actually use that constructively. Because when we allow any part of the body mind feelings to take control, like I said, we become very disconnected from who we really are. And so instead of actually doing things based off what our soul is calling us to do, we end up reacting of fear. And that fear is usually the fear of change, because we want to stay the same, and we are afraid to see what's behind all these feelings. What's gonna happen if I just dissociate with all of that? Of course, it's important to feel, and it's important to allow yourself to feel love and hate and anger and things like that. They all have a place in our life, but they should never take control. They should never overwhelm us. The moment it takes us more than a few hours to get over an upset, that's when we know the body mind feelings has taken over, and we have to fight back and gain the control. So allowing the body mind feelings to control is basically self-sabotage, because it's not promoting our evolution. It's not promoting us on our path and our purpose. So when we take control of that, we can use it in really marvelous, productive and constructive ways. For example, controlling our body is going to help us create the healthiest, probably the best looking body we can ever get, because we will be glowing with this vitality and health. When we control our thoughts, we can choose to think good thoughts and not be so anxious. We can actually, with our thoughts, we can, to a really high extent, control our reality, because our thoughts will make us feel different things. And with our feelings, of course, are very important, especially when we want to make things happen. We have to be able to put ourselves in this situation inside our minds and really feel what we want. And of course, in order to connect with people, we have to feel. We can't be shut down. That's not what we are trying to do here. But we have to feel when there is time and place to feel. So I hope this has helped you understand the body-mind feelings. And my dear ladies and gentlemen, you have just taken a step towards becoming so strong. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing. See you in the next video.